Have you ever felt like someone you loved, someone who passed away, might still be close to you, quietly watching over you, even if you couldn't see them? Have you ever had a moment where the air felt different, a sudden coldness, a strange warmth on the back of your neck, or the deep, unshakable feeling that someone was standing right behind you? You turned around quickly, but no one was there. Still, your heart raced, and every part of you was certain you were not alone. Maybe you dismissed it as your imagination. Maybe you brushed it off as nothing. But deep down, something in you knew that wasn't just a feeling. It was something else, something more. This question, do the dead still watch the living, is one of the most powerful and haunting questions humanity has ever asked. It's been whispered for thousands of years, passed down from generation to generation, sitting quietly in the hearts of people everywhere. It doesn't matter what religion someone follows, or if they don't believe in anything at all. It doesn't matter what language they speak, where they were born, or when they lived. Whether someone is in the snowy mountains of Iceland, the deserts of the Middle East, the forests of South America, or the skyscrapers of New York, this question still finds them. It is part of what it means to be human. To love someone deeply and then lose them is to ask if maybe, somehow, that love didn't end with death. People across history have built their entire beliefs and customs around this one question. Ancient Egyptians prepared their dead for the next life as if it were only the beginning of a long journey. They buried them with clothes, jewelry, food, and favorite objects because they believed the soul continued to travel. The Celts believed that once a year, the wall between the world of the dead and the world of the living became thin enough for souls to return, and they lit fires and left offerings to welcome them. Today, in Mexico, people gather for the Day of the Dead. They don't cry in silence. They celebrate. They dance, laugh, cook meals for their ancestors, talk to them, and share their lives with them, believing that their loved ones come back to visit. They don't treat death as a goodbye, but more like a change of home address. The love doesn't die. The bond doesn't disappear. But even in cultures that don't speak openly about these things, people still experience them. Maybe someone in your own family has told you that they dreamt of a loved one the night they died, even though they were far away and hadn't heard the news. Maybe someone you know smelled a familiar scent, like cigar smoke or a favorite perfume, in a place where no one was smoking and nothing had been sprayed. Maybe you felt that too. These are not rare stories. They're everywhere. They're in villages and cities, in old people and young children. They are so common and so similar that it's hard to ignore them or explain them all away. Science has tried. Scientists often say these moments are just tricks of the mind. They say we feel these things because we are grieving, or because our brains want to believe. They talk about memory, about stress, about how we sometimes see or hear things that aren't really there. But what about the times when different people, in different places, all report the same experience? What about the times when cameras or machines catch something unexplainable? What about the stories that go beyond coincidence, beyond logic? What happens when a child who can't even read starts talking about things they could never know? What happens when a computer starts opening old photo folders on its own? Or when music starts playing at the exact moment someone always used to arrive home, even though no one touched a button? In today's world, we have answers for almost everything. We have tools that let us look at stars millions of light years away and see cells so small we didn't even know they existed 100 years ago. We can translate languages instantly, map our entire DNA, and create machines that think. And yet, even now, with all our knowledge, we still don't have a clear answer to this question. What happens after someone dies? It is still a mystery. And maybe that's part of what makes it so sacred. In a world where everything seems to have a solution, this question remains untouched. It is something deeper than science, something the heart understands better than the mind. Because in the quiet places inside us, we all want to believe that love doesn't end, that people we loved are still near, that somehow, somewhere, they can see us, feel us, protect us, and love us still. And there are signs. All over the world, people report them. Sometimes it's the sudden drop in temperature in a room where someone died. Sometimes it's hearing music, footsteps, or voices in places where no one should be. Sometimes it's an object moving, a book opening to a certain page, a photo falling, a toy playing music on its own. Sometimes it's dreams so real you wake up with tears on your face, the sound of their voice still in your ears. Sometimes it's the scent of their cologne in a room where no one has been for hours. These signs are deeply personal. They match the person who passed in exact and meaningful ways. They don't feel like random accidents. They feel like love, like messages, like a hand reaching across the invisible line to say, "I'm still here." And children seem to feel it the most, because they don't doubt what they see. They don't explain it away. A little girl leaves 2 plates at the table, one for herself and one for her grandfather who recently passed. When her mother asks why, she says, "Grandpa eats with me now." And then, exactly 3 months later, she stops. That quiet awareness in a child, before the world teaches them to doubt, is powerful. Some say the soul stays close for about 3 months after death, before finally letting go. Others say the strongest time of connection is in the first 72 hours. Different cultures have always spoken of these 3 days. The 3 days of the soul, the 72 hours of the bardo, the days between this world and the next. During those 3 days, something happens. Something most people can feel, even if they don't know what it is. It's not just a medical fact. It's something spiritual. The body may have stopped, but the soul is still near. It watches. It listens. It tries to understand. It remembers the people it loves. It visits the places it knew. It lingers, not out of fear, but out of care. Many people feel the strongest presence of their loved ones in those days right after they pass. They sense them in the room. They dream of them more vividly than ever. They speak to them and feel like they're being heard. Doctors and nurses in hospitals have reported strange things again and again. Machines that turn on or off, lights that flicker, the feeling of being watched in empty rooms. One nurse remembered a man who died early one morning. For 3 days, the television in his hospital room turned itself on at the exact time he used to watch the news. No one could explain it. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. Many funeral traditions still honor those 72 hours. They keep the body in a peaceful space, surrounded by family and light. They allow time for goodbyes, not just for the living, but because the soul may still be near enough to hear them. And what's even more touching is that during this time, many people feel like their loved one is giving them their full attention. There are no more distractions, no pain, no confusion, just presence. A woman who lost her husband said she felt him more clearly during the wake than she had in his final months. She finally told him everything she had held in for years. She whispered it softly, knowing, somehow, he was really listening. It felt like a moment of peace, like a soul hearing love one last time before moving on. Not all souls move on quickly. Some stay longer. They may have something to finish, someone to comfort, something to forgive or understand. And during this time, they often show up in dreams. But these are not ordinary dreams. These dreams are different. You wake up with your heart pounding. You remember every detail. You smelled them. You heard their voice. You saw their face exactly as it was. They looked healthy. They were calm. They told you something real, something important. These dreams don't fade like regular ones. They stay with you for years. And somehow, you know it wasn't just your imagination. It was a visit. Some scientists are beginning to believe that our minds might not live only in our brains. They think our consciousness might be something bigger, something that continues after death, even for a little while. In hospitals, special machines that measure energy in the room have picked up strange patterns in the hours and days after death. It's as if something unseen is still moving around, something aware, something alive in a different way. So maybe the answer to that question is not just yes, but a gentle, beautiful yes. Maybe the ones we love do watch us. Maybe they are closer than we think, especially in those first few days. Maybe they visit us in dreams, send us signs, comfort us in silence, and watch us grow from the other side. Maybe they haven't really left at all. Maybe they're just loving us from a place we can't see. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to make us feel not so alone after all. Have you ever felt a presence near you when no one was around? Or dreamed about someone who has passed away and woken up feeling like they had really been there with you? These moments might seem small, but for many people, they feel deeply real. There are countless stories from around the world of people having experiences they can't explain. Strange dreams, ghostly voices, unusual photos, or strong feelings in certain places. And when you look closer, all these moments point to something powerful and mysterious. The people we love may still be with us, even after they die. Some people say they've had experiences where they leave their bodies during sleep or deep meditation. This is often called astral projection or an out-of-body experience. It feels as if their spirit floats outside their physical body and travels somewhere else. During these times, many report visiting realms or spaces where souls of the dead continue to exist. It's not like the spirits come here to our world. Instead, it's as if we step into their space for a little while. These encounters often feel peaceful, familiar, and meaningful. And for many, they come with messages, advice, or comfort. Researchers at the University of Virginia have spent years studying these experiences. They've collected hundreds of cases where people dreamed of someone who had died and woke up with information that turned out to be true. They learned the location of a lost item, heard about something that happened after the person had died, or received messages to pass along to other family members, things they had no way of knowing on their own. These dream encounters weren't just random. They followed patterns. Most of them happened between 3 o'clock and 6 a.m., a time that many spiritual traditions call the sacred hour, when the barrier between the living and the spirit world is thinnest. These visits were especially common shortly after a loved one passed away, and then they slowly happened less often as time went on, as if the spirit had settled more into its new existence. One man named Carlos had these kinds of dreams for 6 months after his father died. Every night at 4:30 a.m., he would dream of his father, who had been a doctor during his life. In the dreams, his father gave him instructions on how to take care of his mother, who had just begun to show signs of Alzheimer's disease. His father told him what medicines to give, what exercises would help, and how to create a calm routine. Everything his father told him was confirmed later by real doctors. The guidance wasn't vague, it was specific, and it helped. Carlos felt like he was still being parentied, even though his father was gone. Children often have these kinds of dreams too. They haven't learned to doubt yet. Their minds are open, and they tend to believe what they feel. They don't dismiss it the way adults sometimes do. That makes them perfect receivers for visits from people who have died. Many children say they talk to grandparents or other relatives in dreams as if nothing has changed. They have conversations, get hugs, receive messages, all while they sleep, and they wake up remembering every detail. These dream visits from loved ones can carry deep meaning. If they happen often, it usually means there's an important message the spirit is trying to share. The visits often continue until the message is fully understood or the emotional bond is honored. But sometimes, the visits are just gestures of love or moments of comfort. The spirit might come during a birthday, or a holiday, or a difficult time, just to say, "I'm still here." Some scientists believe this is possible because the human mind, especially during sleep, can go beyond the limits of time and space. During sleep, we might tap into something greater, something outside of what we normally experience. In dreams, especially lucid dreams where we know we're dreaming and can control what happens, we may be able to reach people we love who have passed on. Some people have even learned to invite these spirits into their dreams, opening the door on purpose, not just waiting for a random visit. And when they come, they often bring information, comfort, or love. If the dead can visit us in dreams, give us accurate messages, and show that they still care about our lives, then it means they haven't lost their sense of self. They still exist. They still love us. They still care about what happens to us. But dreams are just one way they reach out. Since the invention of photography, people have taken pictures where strange figures appear, transparent shapes or faces of people who were no longer alive. These weren't seen when the photo was taken, but showed up clearly in the image. Even today, with billions of cameras everywhere, these kinds of mysterious photos are more common than ever. Families find ghostly shapes in the background of birthday pictures. Tourists take photos in historical places and later see shadows or figures that weren't there before. Home security cameras record movement in rooms that should be empty. These moments often leave people stunned. One woman named Marina was taking photos at her daughter's first birthday. When she looked through the pictures later, she noticed something strange. In one photo, behind her daughter, sitting in an empty chair, was a familiar figure. It was her mother who had passed away 2 months earlier. No one saw her during the party, but in the photo, her face and features were clear and unmistakable. She had shown up, quietly, lovingly, just to be there for a special moment. Photos aren't the only thing that carry these surprises. There's also something called electronic voice phenomena, EVP. These are voices captured on audio recordings when no one was physically speaking. Researchers will sit in a quiet room with a recorder, ask questions into the air, and then listen to the playback. Sometimes they hear brief answers, whispers, phrases, or even full sentences. These voices often directly respond to the questions asked. Some say names, others offer advice. Some sound like someone calling out from a distant place. Scientists who study these voices are careful to eliminate other explanations. They make sure there's no background noise, no radios, nothing that could interfere. And yet, the voices appear, clear, intentional, and often impossible to explain. One researcher, Dr. Konstantin Radev, recorded over 100,000 of these voices. Many were in languages he didn't speak, and some gave facts he later confirmed. These voices weren't random. They had personality, tone, and sometimes even emotion. Some were hard to hear. Others sounded like someone was standing right next to the microphone. Even famous inventor Thomas Edison believed it might be possible to talk to the dead using machines. He began working on something called a spirit phone, hoping to use sound waves to reach across the veil between worlds. Though he didn't finish the device, his notes show that he believed deeply in the idea that the dead could speak if we knew how to listen. But perhaps the clearest communication with the spirit world comes through mediums, people who can feel, hear, or talk to those who have passed on. Every culture throughout history has had people like this. In ancient times, they were called shamans, prophets, or seers. Today, many mediums train for years to sharpen their abilities. They learn how to protect their energy, how to tell the difference between their own thoughts and spiritual messages, and how to deliver what they receive without allowing their own mind to interfere. During a session, a medium often goes into a different mental state. Their brain waves change, similar to what happens in deep meditation. In this state, they become open to things they couldn't sense before. One medium, Amelia, described it as tuning a radio. At first, all you hear is static and noise. But over time, with practice, you can find a clear signal, the presence of a specific spirit. She says spirits come through with their own personalities, ways of speaking, and emotions. They often talk about memories, worries, and messages they want their loved ones to hear. Some mediums give information that is so specific it cannot be guessed. They describe family traditions, personal items, or secret nicknames. One woman named Chloe met with a medium 2 years after her husband died. The medium described a stamp collection hidden in the attic that no one knew about, mentioned a nickname her husband only used when they were alone, and said he was sad because she had stopped tending to the garden they had cared for together. These were intimate details no one else could have known. Real mediums don't fish for information. They don't ask leading questions. They often work quietly, sometimes even refusing to take on clients who are grieving deeply, because they know emotions can cloud clarity. Some fake mediums do exist, and they use tricks to take advantage of people. but researchers have studied genuine mediums in labs. Dr. Gary Schwartz at the University of Arizona tested mediums by only giving them the first name of a deceased person. Even with that little information, the mediums were able to provide personal details about the person's life, personality, and even how they died. The chances of guessing correctly were so small, the results couldn't be explained by luck. Brain scans during these sessions showed unusual activity in areas of the brain tied to perception, space, and emotion, as if their minds were opening to something beyond the physical world. Many mediums say that the dead don't just watch us, they stay close. They attend important events. They visit favorite places. They continue to love and care. Death doesn't end a relationship. It just changes it. Sometimes, the presence of a spirit is so strong that even people without spiritual sensitivity can feel it. In one hospital in Sao Paulo, nurses and doctors feel a constant presence in one hallway at night. Footsteps are heard with no source. People feel watched. The air feels heavy. It's not dangerous. It just feels like someone else is always there. Places don't have to be old to feel this way. What matters is the emotion tied to them. Schools, homes, prisons, theaters, and even shopping centers can feel haunted if something strong happened there, especially involving death, grief, or deep love. At Alcatraz prison in the U.S., visitors often report hearing voices from empty cells, doors slamming, or feeling overwhelmed in certain areas. Scientists have placed equipment there and recorded strange sounds, energy changes, and sudden drops in temperature. But not all spirits are scary. Some stay behind to protect the living. They warn of danger. They give comfort. They quietly care for the places and people they once loved. In the end, one truth becomes clear. The dead don't leave us. They don't disappear. They continue to watch, to love, and to stay connected. They come to us in dreams. They appear in photos. They speak through recordings and through people. They are here, just in a different form, and how we live affects that connection. When we live with love, gratitude, and peace, we make it easier for them to reach us. When we get lost in pain, anger, or fear, we block that connection. Death is not the end. It is a transformation. And when we honor that, when we keep our hearts open, we begin to understand something beautiful. They are not gone. They are with us, closer than we know, waiting for us to see, to feel, and to remember that love never dies.